the show called First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. Button up, my friend. This is Nick Wright. We good?
We're great.
We are into the conference finals, which is great. There's much more to talk about with what happened last night. Zion is not, in fact, coming to New York. We'll let you know where he probably will go. The Lakers dysfunction continues, because why have a day when we have no Lakers dysfunction? But we got to start with the Western Conference Finals, so that we will do. Game one between the Warriors and the Blazers. Warriors without Kevin Durant look like vintage Warriors. Steph Curry with 36 points, including 9 three-pointers in this one. Got help from his fellow Splash brother, Klay Thompson, 26 points. Golden State takes game one with a 116-94 final win. Steve Kerr now 18-1 in game ones in the last 5 seasons. Here's Steph Curry after the big win.
I know what I'm capable of on the floor, and the situation calls for me to be a little bit more aggressive, and hopefully that'll continue. So. Obviously, it's nice to see the ball go in. I didn't shoot the ball well for 4.5 quarters and 4.5 games, I should say, in last series, and got off to a good start tonight. So, want to maintain that.
Houston had some success, trapping Steph and really getting out on him. Is this sustainable for you guys to keep dropping the big so far?
Did they? I can't remember. When he had 33 in the second half, were they trapping then?
Yes.
They were, and he scored 33 in the second half.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that.
Okay. So what adjustments, CC, do you think Terry Stotts or Nick, whoever wants to start here, what adjustments do the Blazers now have to make heading into game two?
Well, that reporter is absolutely right. I think that's Anthony Slater. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's a legitimate question.
It's a legitimate question, and it was a question that, if you're watching the game last night, through a quarter, I thought the Blazers keep blowing their assignments. Why Enes Kanter is in there not why is he standing midway in the lane when there's a pick and roll for Steph?
I thought it was miscommunication.
Right, I thought it was blown assignments, miscommunication. But then when it happens again and again and again, you realize, wait, they're doing what they're being told to do, which is guard Steph Curry the way I would imagine he has never been guarded since his freshman year at Davidson. Never been guarded where there's a scouting report on him, which is, oh, this guy's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. And I understand Terry Stotts was frustrated, and I get the point, Steph scored 33 in the second. The Rockets' defensive game plan against the Warriors was sound, and it was because they have a ton of experience against the Warriors. They had built their team to defend the Warriors. They weren't good enough to beat them, but that's a separate question.
Yeah, they did have a good plan.
They had a good plan.
Yes.
And by the way, in that second half of Game 6 when Steph went off, he wasn't shooting practice shots. He wasn't shooting step into it at the line, just ideal shots. They were tough shots. If the Blazers do not adjust, they will not be competitive in this series. So with respect to Terry Stotts, he's 36 hours after a Game 7 win. He's raw. He's upset because they got blown out. They must adjust, and the players on the team. There was an article in The Athletic I read this morning. The players on the team all said, we need to watch the film and see how to change, because they didn't make the Warriors work for it. Steph was great, but it was a lot because the Blazers almost seemingly wanted him to be great because of a mind-boggling defensive game plan.
And from the defensive standpoint, you're watching the game, you think that they don't have communication, they're blowing their assignments, or maybe this is a team from the Eastern Conference that's not familiar. They didn't play Golden State 4 times during the season. Damian Lillard and CJ haven't played them for the last 5 years a number of times. But that wasn't the case. So they're going to have to make some serious adjustments. From a defensive standpoint, they have to be able to adjust what they were doing. And, Nick, the thing that let me know that it was a game plan, when I saw Kanter initially doing, I thought that they were trying to protect him because he's a defensive liability. Then I see the young kid, Zach Collins, who's a great athlete, who comes in from Gonzaga, and they have him at the free throw line or in the paint. So I know it was an overall philosophy. Now, we can say a built-in excuse. We were worried about the emotion of game number 7, them winning that on Sunday afternoon, flying to Oakland, playing the game. It was documented. They didn't practice. when they got to Oakland on Monday, didn't have a shoot-around yesterday. So the first bad ball to go through the bucket yesterday for them was in the pregame. So to me, that was to me more than anything else, just a lack of energy. They could not get the energy where they wanted it from game number 7, because in game number 7 against Denver, there was a build-up to that from game number 1. They looked a little tired. They looked a little lack of preparation. And you cannot have a game where Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, they shoot the ball 27 times in total of the 83 shots. From Golden State's standpoint, Klay and Steph shoot 47. They get 20 more shots than the other backcourt of Portland. So those are the adjustments that are going to happen if Portland is going to make this a series.
And while the lack of shoot around, the lack of practice, to me, that can account for some of Portland's struggles on the offensive end. But the struggles on the defensive end, to me, were they lost.
That's legitimate.
They lost this game before the game because Steph Curry, how many threes he make last night? 9 of them. Well, 7 of them were what are called uncontested. Steph can make contested threes.
Practice shots.
Right. He can make
they got
threes.
the ball boys and the old fat coaches guarding them.
You give Steph 10 uncontested threes, and he going to make 7 of them. He's going to shoot 70% on uncontested threes. It was ridiculous, and all they need to do when they watch the game film is look at how Golden State was guarding them, because Golden State guarded them with this mindset. They got 2 guys that can beat us. We are going to force anyone else to beat us. And Portland, even when one of Steph or Klay was on the bench, Jenna, even when it was Steph plus, Draymond, Quinn Cook, Kevon Looney, and Alfonso McKinney, they were still losing him.
Yes.
They were still losing. When it was just one of those guys plus 4 non-threats, they were still losing
And they did the same thing when Klay was on the court with them.
Absolutely right. Klay, without Durant, the biggest benefit you have is there are going to be segments of the game where the Warriors only have one real offensive threat. You have to swarm him, and if Alfonso McKinney beats you, so be it. But that wasn't it last night. What happened last night was the offense looked tired and the defense looked unprepared.
There were so many things we talked about that were going to factor into this game. How they were going to deal, how the Blazers would handle not having KD in there and take advantage of it. Who would win the battle of the backcourt, which clearly went to the Warriors. If the Blazers could slow down the Warriors in this one, which clearly they did not. But it all comes down to Steph Curry, who stepped up and once again said, well, this is what I do. We don't have Kevin Durant. We're going to do old school Warriors. And he did just that. How impressive was Steph Curry?
He was impressive. And, Jenna, you're right. And that's why yesterday I thought with our friend Cris Broussard is going to be joining us today. That's why Steph should be in the conversation for best player. It's not his fault KD joined him. Now, him and KD being 2 of the top 3 players in the world, yeah, did they forfeit some stuff, potentially the MVP? But when you talk about the conversation as far as best basketball player in the world, and now with KD being out, you're getting ready to see what we saw with Steph when he was the 2-time MVP. So very impressive what he did. It was aided by the lack of a great game plan. And you cannot play Steph Curry and not make it a street fight. You cannot think you're going to chase him around the court and be able to think you're going to outdo Golden State their way. No. The reason why the Clippers series was a series, because from the beginning, they made it a street fight. They had Kevin Durant upset. They got into his mind. They knocked Steph down. They were physical with Klay. In the Houston series, the reason why he was off 4.5 games, Steph admitting that his shooting was because they roughed him up. So, yes, Steph was nice. If you let him play this finesse-type basketball, it's only going to get worse. Like, he will continue to do this. So you got to make this a street fight. You got to be able to rough it up. But, yes, Steph Curry, he put his mark on this game and on his statement as far as this offseason without Kevin Durant, why he should be included in that conversation, the best in the world.
And this is why I have so much respect for Stephen Curry, because he, more than Durant, more than Klay, more than anyone on the team, he sacrificed when he welcomed Kevin Durant onto his team, because the world, in large degree, has forgotten how good he actually is, how dominant he can be, the gravity he alone can have on a defense. And this team was built, the team prior to Kevin Durant was built around his particular strengths. Bob Myers and company did a great job around looking at their transcendent player and figuring out why Andre Iguodala would be a great role player for them, why Draymond Green is more valuable to them than other people, and their ability to lose a guy who was playing at a higher level in these playoffs than arguably anybody, lose him, and instantly transition back to, okay, this is who we originally were. This is who we're probably going to have to be next year and be dominant. They haven't lost a game. They haven't lost a meaningful quarter since Kevin Durant went down. That's remarkable, and that's a testament to Stephen Curry.
All right, the Golden State Warriors take Game 1 in the Western Conference Finals. CC mentioned Cris Broussard will be out here a little bit later on. We'll talk much more about this. Coming up, though, Zion is likely headed to New Orleans. So where does that leave Anthony Davis? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We'll get to Zion and the Pelicans in a second, but first, Tigers-Astros, Nico Goodrum making a sensational catch in foul territory. Woo!
Oh, nice. Misjudged that one a little bit, but
Yeah.
Nico
started to slide a little bit soon. Oh,
Nico's the
great
guy
catch.
who yesterday we showed his home run getting stolen by George Springer. And now he makes a play in the field, not stealing a home run, but kind of stealing an out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Steal that at bat from him.
Absolutely right.
You're right, he mistimed this, but
I don't know if he mistimed it.
You got to get on the ground. You got to hit the grass part before you hit that gravel part. That's why he started to slide a little early.
Warriors-Blazers, Andre Iguodala on the fast break.
Watch Andre's
finds
face.
Jonas Jerebko for the easy layup.
Man, Andre's feeling himself these playoffs now. Shot a tidy little 48% from three in the previous series. Didn't do that much last night, but didn't need to. He has been, since he started into the starting lineup, man.
Trailblazers made Jerebko look like an all-star.
All right, finally, check out this little guy. Drops
look back
a
at him.
defender, then looks back before drilling it.
Oh, and that's a deep shot now.
He looks like the little point guard used to play for Villanova.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Look at that.
Look
That's
at
a
him.
deep shot for this little fella.
Saucy.
He's so
I love it.
Oh, man.
Saucy.
Check to make sure. A little lefty, too. I like that.
All right, to the NBA draft lottery now. It's not since LeBron have we waited with such bated breath to see where a player would end up. And New Orleans, with just a 6% shot to get the #1 pick, got the #1 pick and will almost certainly draft Zion Williamson. The Pelicans would love a lineup which includes both Zion and Anthony Davis, but according to reports, drafting Zion will not change Davis's trade demands. He still wants out. Nick, would AD be making a mistake forcing a trade, giving up a chance to play alongside Zion there in New Orleans?
I don't think he would. I think Anthony Davis is totally correct and still reportedly wanting out of New Orleans, and that is not a knock on Zion, who I think is a generational talent. But Anthony Davis just completed his 7th season in the NBA. In those 7 seasons, he has played in 13 playoff games, won 5 of them. It is now time for Anthony Davis to build a postseason resume. And as my partner Chris Carter brings up all the time, the next time there is a rookie who is making a dominant impact at this round or later in the NBA playoffs will be the first time in a long time. You can say, oh, what about the Celtics last year? Yeah. Celtics last year had nothing but young players.
Yeah, be careful.
Right. Those young players were not playing over veterans. Their veterans were injured. They were pressed into duty, and they did a nice job. But those same young players then this year came back to the playoffs and looked like young players do. I thought it was impressive, and he earned a lot of my respect that Nikola Jokic had the postseason he had, because he's still a young player. It's year 4 for him. Zion is compared to LeBron, and he's not LeBron, but let's compare him to LeBron. LeBron did not get to the playoffs until his 3rd year, did not have a real playoff run until his 4th year. So I understand the people like, man, Anthony Davis and Zion, but if you're Anthony Davis, you are right now in the heart of the prime of your career. You can go play on an instant contender, or you can help build a contender with Zion. I would prefer the former rather than the latter.
But you don't know. So it's giving up what you might know with Zion for something that you don't know where the Pelicans are going to trade you. So you could end up being traded for a lot, so you are the only guy in another team.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, Jenna. He's made demands in the way his contract is. Normally you would think, no, you're not going to know where you're going to get traded. But the way Anthony Davis is and the way this goes, unless you do a Paul George OKC, which you have seen that work, unless you do a Kawhi, which right now, we don't know if that's going to work. But Anthony Davis has put demands that I will only sign an extension with Los Angeles, with the Knicks. Like, there's a couple of other teams, but those are the teams. So you can't just trade him anywhere, so it would hurt the package that they're going to try to fetch from him. So this is the thing. The NBA, it does not stand for National Boys Association. This is about grown men. This is not about playing with kids. Now, we like it. We like the draft lottery. I think some of the things the NBA is doing is spectacular. But when you talk about postseason and postseason success, look at the teams we're watching. These are veteran-oriented teams that have some younger players that are sprinkled in. Now, so Anthony Davis, you're telling me if KD ends up in New York, we know LeBron's in L.A., with those teams having the third and fourth pick, and he has said, I will sign an extension with those teams, what he is saying is, I'd rather play with KD and LeBron rather than play with Zion. So he does know, though.
Right, and I think the premise is just slightly flawed in this regard, Jenna. A bad team. Paul George did stay in OKC.
And Kawhi might stay in Toronto.
Right, but they weren't traded to bad teams. They were traded to teams with a superstar. Kawhi was traded to a team that had the #1 seed in their conference.
He was the star.
Right. He was traded to a Raptors team that is ready to win right now, that was the #1 seed in their conference last year. No team does not have an infrastructure in place that is far better than New Orleans is going to trade for Anthony Davis on a potential one-year rental. Whomever trades for him, it will be with a superstar alongside him, or similar to Toronto, a complementary team alongside him to where you are instantly a contender. And on the New Orleans side of things, David Griffin is an excellent GM, and he will, I believe, not make the same mistake with Zion that the previous GM, that the Dell Demps regime and the regime before, made with Anthony Davis. Holding on to Anthony Davis with the hope that maybe we can convince him to re-sign would be doing a disservice to the Zion Williamson era. You can have a 3-year rebuild boiled down into 1 year when you have Zion Williamson and whatever package you get for Anthony Davis, because the Lakers jumped in the lottery, because the Knicks didn't fall all the way to 5. Like you can get Zion plus another top 4 pick plus another high upside young player, and you can all of a sudden say, okay, we can contend with Zion with young players, not by overpaying for older players, starting not this year, but the year after this year, which is the ideal situation for New Orleans. So David Griffin, I think, won twice yesterday. He won by getting the #1 pick, and he won by how the lottery fell
by
with
the
Knicks
potential
and Lakers.
Customers, with the Lakers and the Knicks still being there in the top 4.
Let's talk about the Lakers. Does the Lakers now seem far more attractive in potential trade swapping with New Orleans than they did before when these failed conversations took place months ago?
Well, this is the best news of the Lakers since LeBron James signed with them.
Yep.
I mean, them being able to be out of the top 10, which is customary where they would have fallen, when they got into the top 4, now they got right back into the Anthony Davis. If the Pelicans would have known the Lakers have the #4 pick, Anthony Davis wouldn't be on the Pelicans.
Correct.
They would have traded him, because now look at the Lakers' offer. All those young players, pick whichever one you want. And now you have the 4th pick. So it's far more appealing now for the Lakers. The Lakers are one of the big winners in yesterday's lottery.
To me, Pelicans 1, Lakers 2, as far as the biggest winners from yesterday. Also, the Lakers won in this regard as far as going after Anthony Davis. If Boston's going to continue to try to go after Anthony Davis, they got terribly unlucky yesterday. In that Memphis pick, it was top 8 protected, so Boston was hoping that Memphis pick would fall at 9. It jumped into the top 8 all the way to 2, so now that's a future pick. The Sacramento pick, which they had the slimmest of chances, but if it fell 2, 3, 4, they get it no matter what, unless it went #1. It stays right there where it was supposed to stay at 14. So if you're Boston now, you've got the 14th pick, the Clippers pick, your own pick, all mediocre picks to bad picks in the first round. You're not going to trade Tatum. The lottery last night, the Celtics needed some luck, and they got the opposite of that. So to me, you can almost cross them off the Anthony Davis sweepstakes. The Chicago Bulls, they got unlucky in the lottery yesterday. They were staring at potentially having the 4th pick. They fell to the 7th pick. The Lakers, to go from, you're supposed to be 11. Now you're at 4. Obviously, for the Lakers, ideally, it would have been, I think, 3. If they had gotten 1 or 2, the way they're running the franchise now, they might have held on to it and just said, we're going to build around Zion and Ja and try to stay young. But at 3 or 4, the Lakers now have a real trade chip to include with Ingram and Ball or Ingram and Kuzma. And I'm looking around the league. I wonder who's going to trump that. The Knicks have the 3rd pick, but is Kevin Knox enough of an upgrade? Is Kevin Knox good enough? I like Kevin Knox as a player, but does he have the upside of Ingram? Does he have the upside of Ball? I don't know. So I think the Pelicans are thrilled, and the Lakers have to be really thrilled as well with the way this fell.
All right, so the Pelicans and the Lakers come out winners yesterday. Were the Knicks the losers? We'll talk about that. But coming up, are the Warriors just as good without Kevin Durant? We'll revisit that next on First Things First. Saturday on Fox, we've got a great night of baseball. Most of the country will see the Astros take on the Red Sox. It all starts at 7 Eastern on Fox. Check your local listings for the game in your area.
Little ALCS rematch, Stros Red Sox.
Time for stories. First, we're going to go viral. The Pelicans hit the jackpot yesterday, getting the first overall pick in the NBA draft lottery. And with Zion Williamson presumably headed to New Orleans, we already have a preview of the Phenom dominating NBA competition. Doesn't this right here look like an early Rookie of the Year candidate? I mean, come on.
Jenna, I was tickled when I saw this. I thought you would really enjoy this.
This is great.
Look at that body.
I mean,
And look at how tall he must be, Jenna. He can dunk with such ease.
no, this is photoshopped.
God, no, none of it's Photoshopped, Jenna.
Or, is...
What is it? Tell us.
They're doing this at a kids club, right?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay.
The rims are short.
Look at him, though.
And that's not really Zion.
Bingo.
Now, see, he's not doing the toning exercises you're doing. He's lifting for size now, Jenna.
It's adorable.
Jenna, you're training for toning and endurance.
I don't want to look like Zion. That's not what I want to look like. Thank you for pointing that out.
But I thought you were going to think that was Kevin Hart. I really thought you were going to be like, that's Kevin Hart.
Who has been training. Love Kevin Hart if you're out there. Love you, man. Come on the show. That was cute. Should we just move forward? Now it's time for stories to start your
Jen,
morning.
I don't blame you for that. I blame the producers.
Brought to you
It's their
by
fault.
the unexpected
Not
energy
setting you up to win there.
of ExxonMobil. Can we show another skinny shot of Nick? Golden State didn't miss a beat without Kevin Durant. Steph Curry leading the way with 36 points, including 9 3-pointers. They now take Game 1 over the Blazers with a 116-94 win. So what do you think, Nick? Do the Warriors cruise in this series after what you saw last night?
Well, the Warriors have been my pick in this series, and I think almost everyone's pick all along. But will they cruise? They will cruise if the Blazers don't adjust that defensive game plan. If they decide to guard Steph like he's a 30% three-point shooter, they guarded Steph like he was Draymond. Like, give me a break. So they need to make an adjustment. If they do make an adjustment, they can make a series out of this. They could be knotted 2 games apiece after 4 games, especially if Durant doesn't play those first 4 games. But they have to come out far differently than they came out on both ends last night.
I'm going with some different adjustments. Forget about the defense. I know they're very, very smart. Maybe a lineup adjustment. Aminu, he is no good, Nick, for them, all right? We got to put him off to the side. I need Rodney Hood to play more minutes and Zach Collins. Man, he's not going to mess up his hair. He's got the best-looking hair in the NBA. He needs to be able to play more minutes.
And they got it. How about this? Don't have 21 turnovers, guys. How about that?
Moving on to the Lakers now. According to reports, Lakers minority owners are unhappy with how Jeannie Buss is running the organization. Could it be because Magic Johnson abruptly left, the head coaching search was bungled, and rumors are swirling around trading LeBron James? And that's just in the last month. See, what was your reaction to this?
You can't be surprised by this. This is what happens when you own a franchise. But the truth of the matter is, Jeannie Buss has done excellent as far as the business operations. The Lakers are making money. It's when she dabbles in the basketball part. That's the part that the minority owner can't be happy with, because they are making money off the court.
I don't blame the minority owners for being upset, but people need to understand with the way the Lakers are set up, there can't be any hostile takeover.
Yeah.
This isn't like Billions where all of a sudden you get the board members to overthrow her. The only people that could remove Jeannie Buss are the other members of the Buss family, and Jeannie's done something very smart. She's included 2 of her younger brothers in this entire process, in the coaching search, in the interviews. So she's going to remain at the center of power, but they should be upset. The only thing the Lakers have done well since LeBron got hurt was get lucky in the lottery last night. And that's not, nobody earned that. They just got lucky. She and the entire Lakers front office need to do a better job.
All right, back to the draft lottery. The Knicks were hoping they'd luck into drafting Zion Williamson. Instead, they settled for the 3rd overall pick. New Orleans was the lucky franchise last night, getting that top pick, which most likely means getting Zion. Reports are Zion wanted to go to the Knicks. And after the Pelicans were announced as the top pick, Zion was reportedly whisked out of the room quickly without making any comments. Nick, what did the NBA miss out on with the Knicks not landing Zion?
To me, not anything. There is listen, a lot of the media is based right here in New York City, and there is obviously a New York City bias to this. The Knicks, when was the NBA at its best? Some people would say the 80s. Knicks weren't any good in the 80s. When was the NBA at its next best? You want to say the Jordan era? The Knicks had a nice moment in the Jordan era. Their best moment, of course, was when Jordan was retired and they made the NBA Finals. The other peak of the NBA is this last decade, the LeBron and Warriors era. The Knicks haven't mattered. The league does not need the New York Knicks. The league needs stars. Where have been the most interesting teams over the last decade? Oakland, Cleveland, Oklahoma City? It is no longer about, man, you can only see the team in your area. You can only see one NBA game a week. And so Zion Williamson going to an organization that now has real leadership in David Griffin that will be able to add another young piece via the Anthony Davis trade, league's going to be fine. And I feel like the other thing that happened here was people just don't understand probabilities. The Knicks got lucky last night. They had a 73% chance of not getting a top 2 pick, and they had a 60% chance of not getting a top 3 pick. So they defied the odds by even getting the 3rd pick. It was overwhelmingly unlikely they were going to get Zion. The league does not need Zion in New York City. Now, Zion might be bummed because it seemed like he wanted to be in New York City, and in that regard, I feel badly for the kid. I think New Orleans could be a super fun place to live. Great food, great people, but I don't think the league missed out on much by not having Zion on a team that's been bad for decades.
Yeah, I disagree with you, Nick. I agree with Jenna as far as New York and the probability. It has nothing to do with, okay, who's been good. You mentioned the cities. I'll give you the cities. LeBron, he went to Cleveland. He was happy. He wanted to go there. Steph, man, he could have gone anywhere. He was not a surefire knockdown talent. He was happy that they signed him and put the confidence because it was on the board that they weren't going to do that. Russ, he's a weird guy. He loves OKC. Durant left OKC, but are they going to win? So the thing about it that's different is in these smaller markets, all these guys wanted to be there. It was fairly evident last night Zion didn't want to be there. Now, also, I know this in talking to Scott Perry. If he would have gone to the Knicks, they would have kept him. They wouldn't have traded him. So he would have been able to play for the team. Zion doesn't know where he could be now. Like with all the trades and everything, like he doesn't know that. The market of playing in New York City, it is very, very different. With his marketability, with his shoe deal, with his smile, with his charisma, with his humbleness, he was a perfect fit to be a star in New York because New York, under Scott Perry, they have just as good a chance to be good with KD coming and potentially Kyrie coming that New Orleans does with David Griffin and those picks.
Knicks have a better chance. And I just want to, you said one thing that I don't think you meant. You said he doesn't know where he's going to be. Zion knows he's going to be in New Orleans. He doesn't know who he's going to be playing with.
Yes,
that's what you were trying to say. He knows definitively he's going to be a New Orleans Pelican.
So the marketability, yes, far greater in New York than he would probably be in New Orleans. But what about his basketball? Do you think his basketball changes, his game changes? How much pressure is on him to perform right now? Depends on where he is.
See, so now this is another place that I know based on yesterday, you and I disagree. But I am happy that Zion is Zion is already going to have an attention on him we haven't seen on a rookie since LeBron. We now know with 15 years of exposure to LeBron, the decisions he's made on and off the court, he is a not just transcendent talent, but he had almost transcendent instant maturity on how to empower his business partners, his friends turned business partners, how to deal with not having any off-the-court scandals ever whatsoever, all those things. Zion, we don't know, as a young kid from South Carolina, how he would deal with being in the crucible of not only New York City, but a team with Kevin Durant and a team with instant championship aspirations. The idea that we would have, if
Nick, you tell me this all the time. Chris, it's a difference of philosophy. I have been around too many athletes, and I've been around too many elite athletes to see a young colt and what they do with that, their responsibility. I believe the better players he's around initially, the better habits he will start early in his career compared to being the go-to guy with an organization where you can make a lot of mistakes. I'm sure LeBron James, if he could do it all over again, man, he would love to have a good veteran player, not these average guys that he was playing with. If you have a good to great veteran player who already has a system, and also that great player is going to be a buffer for the media because you're not going to be the voice of the franchise. They will have a couple layers between you and the media. That's why I believe that the New York situation, because I know they're getting a superstar.
I totally agree. Just quickly here, Luka and Trey both had tremendous rookie years. And they didn't get the opportunity to go to the playoffs and for us to question how clutch they are. Oh, when are they? Because they weren't supposed to be there. They were the first. The guys on their team and their teams are building around them. I think for young players, it can be a positive to instantly not walk into playoff expectations. And
I disagree with you.
I know.
I mean, Ben Simmons and Jason Tatum right now, regardless of what you see, and my man in Utah, they are so much
Donovan
better
Mitchell.
than all the other players because you know what? They've been grinded in the playoffs. They realize, you know something? That 82-game season and the playoff season, man, there's grown men playing in the playoffs. They hand check you. They bump you. The ref's not going to give you a bunch of fouls. So regardless of what you ever say, I know that experience and that failure, regular season success, postseason failure has made them into better basketball players than not participating in the postseason where all the pressure is.
All right, let's turn the conversation to the Eastern Conference Finals now. Toronto heading to Milwaukee to face the Bucks in Game 1 tonight. Superstar versus superstar. Kawhi Leonard versus Giannis Antetokounmpo. Who can and will carry their respective teams, both coming off dominant postseason runs so far. Nick, I'll start with you. Who's got the edge in this series, the Raptors or the Bucks?
The Bucks. The Bucks are going to have the edge in every series they play, and that includes the one in the finals against the Warriors. The Bucks are the best team in basketball. I'll say this until everyone starts believing it. The Bucks they played them 4 times in the regular season. They went 3-1 there. They dominated the first round. They then dominated the second round. And as good as Kawhi has been playing, I do not believe Kawhi is quite as good as Giannis, even though he's very close. But the complementary pieces at this point they're not playing as close as you would have thought
in Toronto,
as well as they did in the regular season. Milwaukee has the ability to beat you so many different ways. They have the number 1 defense in basketball. They have number 3 offense in basketball. And all of a sudden, they are with Brogdon back, they are the healthiest team remaining in the NBA playoffs. So they also have home court advantage, and they are more rested. So to me, I think Toronto has been an excellent team. Toronto has had an excellent season. But Toronto is now about to run into a far stiffer competition than they had in the second round in dealing with Milwaukee versus dealing with Philly. So to me, I think Milwaukee is the heavy favorite, and I would be more surprised with the Raptors winning the series than the Bucks winning it in 4 or 5 games.
I think the Bucks are a better team. So who has the advantage? I believe the better team. Also, the better team happens to have home court advantage. We saw in the last couple years where Cleveland, they weren't concerned about the home court advantage because at that time we could say, you know something, they have the best player, and we thought they had a better team, even though their regular season hadn't gone the way they wanted to go. So in this, though, you have to look at Milwaukee not only from the beginning of the season, the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, they have been consistent, either 1 or 2 of the best teams playing basketball. How they play, their style has transferred from the regular season to the postseason. And we have seen Toronto, Kyle Lowry, who's going to show up? Who's going to be their second scorer? Siakam. Is he ready to be big time 7 games in a row? I don't think so. As a young player, he's going to be a little inconsistent. So I believe that Milwaukee is a better team. But watch out. You lose home court advantage.
Right.
They go back to Canada tied up 1-1. And also, let's not forget, last series they were in with Boston, where did they slip up? In game number 1, young team, hadn't seen this stage. So can Toronto steal one of those first 2 games, particularly the game number 1 tonight?
So if Giannis and Kawhi cancel each other out, theoretically, is this going to come down to whose supporting cast shows up? Toronto's got a great supporting cast. They just only played basically 1 game so far this postseason where they had to really help out. They gave Kawhi a chance to really him out.
Yeah, I think Toronto's going to struggle in this regard. Can you have Kawhi cancel out Giannis in as much as this? Are you going to ask Kawhi to guard Giannis? Are you going to ask Kawhi who
No,
has
I don't think so.
Right, because he has been your offense has revolved around Kawhi Leonard, right? So
So that would tax him too much?
To me, it'd be too taxing. I think they will try
I don't think it's the best matchup for him.
Pascal Siakam guarding
Yeah, they
him as
have
much
too
as
many
possible.
guys who have length. Serge Ibaka, those guys should be guarding Giannis. Just because you have the 2 best players don't mean you go out of your way to try to put Kawhi. Kawhi gonna lock down whoever he has.
Correct.
Whoever he's guarding gonna have their hands full. And if he can stop Middleton or one of the other scorers from getting 20 points, that helps them try to win.
But I also think it's going to be very tough in this series for Toronto to play. What big are they going to play? Because much like Chris Mannix, and he was wrong about a lot of the Celtics-Bucks series, but he was right about one thing. Tough series for Brook Lopez because of the Celtics matchup there. Now it's going to be a tough series for Marc Gasol because Brook Lopez is going to try to spend time away from the basket, ask Gasol to move his feet in a way I'm not sure how comfortable he is.
I don't think he's going to try to get past him, though. So I think it plays to Gasol because Gasol is a very good defender. And because Lopez is not going to pick and roll. It makes him easier to guard for a big guy.
It's going to be a pick and pop. My concern is this. You're right. I don't think it's about Lopez getting past Gasol. I think it's about Lopez drawing Gasol away from the basket. And then who is there to meet Giannis at the rim? Who is there to deal with what the Bucks have done so well this year, which is have Giannis drive, and if you collapse down on him, he hits guys for open shots. The Bucks have they're not only 8-1 this postseason. 7 of those victories are by double digits. They have been dominating teams. I think that they are going to come out tonight and not like Game 1 against Boston, where they were clearly not ready for playoff intensity, ready and announce themselves as clearly the favorites in the East and maybe the favorites in the whole thing. At least they are in my eyes. But tonight's game is important. You slip up against, like you said, you slip up in Game 1, you give back home court advantage.
I think it's going to be a little more difficult tonight, but you make it sound awful easy.
Well, I've said both these first 2 series for the Bucks were going to be awful easy.
Right.
I don't know a lot of people that thought the Celtics series was going to be. It ended up being.
Well, everyone's out there not like a fool like Kendrick Perkins betting you $1,000. Most people thought the Bucks were going to beat them. At least 4-2 would be the best that series would be.
Okay, well, we'll see how this one
doofus.
goes. I think, we'll see how this one goes. I think the Bucks are the best team in the
Isn't he betting you again?
Well, he is.
Oh.
He's got the
If you
Raptors.
do win, would you
Stuck on
consider
it.
us as a
Kendrick, you're not good
threesome
at
to
this.
go out for dinner?
No.
Okay. Just
No, we're
making
good,
sure.
Jen. We're
Take a
good.
break. Coming up, will the Warriors cruise to the finals after dominating
We
the
don't wanna
Blazers
go to dinner
in
with
Game
him anyway.
1? Yeah, we don't want to go
Weirdo.
to dinner with him anyway.
Dude's going to have to be
weirdo.
running out faking phone calls. Hey,
First things first. The audience needs
And
context.
then he's going to be like this. Oh my God, I gotta go. I gotta go, man. I gotta go. I gotta go.
Jenna,
Yes.
you can go.
Back here on First Things First, FS1 NBA analyst Cris joins us this morning.
What's up,
What
brother?
up, brother? Good to see you.
Always great to be here.
Nice to see you too.
Ohio homeboy.
Can we get a sucker or somebody to bet? Give us $1,000.
I'm looking for Kendrick.
We so-
Kendrick, I do bets too. So
Hey, man.
come on.
Stay off my corner, man.
so jealous.
I'm trying to eat good on Kendrick Perkins' dime.
Game 1, Broussard, between the Warriors and the Blazers last night. Golden State didn't miss a beat without Kevin Durant. No offense, Kevin Durant. Steph Curry was vintage Steph, led the Warriors with 36 points, including 9 3-pointers. Klay Thompson chipping in 26 points as well, as the Warriors take Game 1 with a 116-94 final. Here's Steph Curry after the win.
I know what I'm capable of on the floor, and the situation calls for me to be a little bit more aggressive, and hopefully that'll continue. So obviously it's nice to see the ball go in. I didn't shoot the ball well for 4.5 quarters and 4.5 games, I should say, in last series, and got off to a good start tonight. So want to maintain that.
Houston had some success, trapping Steph and really getting out on him. Is this sustainable for you guys to keep dropping the big so far?
Did they? I can't remember. When he had 33 in the second half, were they trapping then?
Yes.
They were, and he scored 33 in the second half.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that.
All right, Broussard, Stotts and the Blazers now have to make a few adjustments after what happened last night. What do you think they need to do?
Look, I understand Stotts not wanting to be questioned by the media at a time like that when you just got hammered, but defensively, that's the first adjustment, right? Your big has to come up on the pick and roll with Steph and Clay and try to contest, or you double team them, trap them. You can't have them floating back and giving them open looks as you did last night. So that's the first thing. Then you get to the offense. You can't have 21 turnovers. Got to protect the ball. Secondly, with the offense, you need to play Rodney Hood more and Zach Collins, because they're double teaming. They're doing what Golden State needs to do, which is double teaming McCollum and Lillard and getting the ball out of their hands, and the other guys can't punish you. So Hood can punish you if you double those guys. So they need to play those guys more. And then, look, Damian Lillard went to another level after outplaying Westbrook. And then what he did against Denver.
When you're saying he went to another level as far as how we talk about him.
Yes,
play
exactly.
You're saying the
he
play
was always a perennial all-star, but now he's kind of,
top 10.
toying with that superstar label. Right. And now, welcome to that world.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to get scrutinized like Russell Westbrook, scrutinized like James Harden, and you can't have two games like you had in Game 7 against Denver, even though you won, and last night. He's shooting 24% in the last two games.
7 for 29.
So he's either going to show he is this superstar now, or he's just a perennial all-star, a great player, but not on that elite, ultra-elite level.
I'd like to piggyback on the substitution. You're talking about adjustments, defensively, because coming into this series, both of you, I've heard both of you independently talk about Terry Stotts as a head coach. You talked about, hey, listen, if somehow Terry Stotts, they weren't happy with him and the Lakers wanted to hire him, have a lot of respect for what he's done. I've heard you talk about Terry Stotts. He's underrated as far as the X's and O's. So we respect what the coach. So we think that they'll do these things. Right. From a personnel standpoint, you have to get the ball, because what Golden State is doing, they're going to trap and they're going to make the ball leave out of the playmakers. And they only respect two players on Golden State, and that's CJ and that's Dame. Now, Cantor, they believe whoever they put on him will be able to negate him. So they don't have playmakers. So you have to build. Aminu, you got to take him out of the lineup, because he's not a playmaker. He's not a shot maker. He's a liability on the offensive end, because they had Steph Curry guarding him, and he's 6'10". They did not post him up one time and punish Seth on the block. So you need to be able to get the ball. If I'm going to make Dame pass the ball, make him pass to another playmaker. Rodney Hood, so impressive the way he's played in this short stretch. And him being able to play after hyperextending his knee in game number 7, him playing game number 1 was very, very effective. And Zach Collins, he's got to play more than 18 to 20 minutes. Young player, very, very athletic, who also can be a playmaker, scoring the basketball, shooting the basketball, and more importantly, passing the basketball.
It was a miracle the Blazers at one point in the fourth quarter had cut it to 9 points with 6 minutes left. They lost this game 3 different ways. Dame and CJ didn't play well. That'll lose you the game. 21 turnovers, that'll lose you the game.
Yes.
And their defensive game plan, that'll lose you the game. This could have been, Van Gundy was saying it throughout, this could have been, it felt like a 30-point margin. Right. And it's like, wait, they're 4 possessions down, 5 possessions down, but the Warriors were in total control the entire time. There was one lead change in the entire game. The Blazers, I think, were up 5-0. The Warriors then took the lead and never looked back, right? So the Warriors were in full control. Of course they have to adjust defensively. Terry Stotts, I do have enormous respect for him. But this the results-oriented way of looking at things, well, Steph scored 33 in the second half. Well, sure, he also scored 33 in the game, which means that same defensive strategy held him to 0 in the first half. You have to take advantage of the fact that Kevin Durant is not there. That would be the wrong way to defend a pick and roll if Durant was the picker, but it would be more defensible, because you are more worried about what the guy could do with the ball. When Durant's not there, you cannot guard that way. And Van Gundy was losing his mind when it happened. When there's only one Splash Brother out there,
Yes.
To let that guy get the shot.
That's when the Warriors are the most vulnerable. And that's where you see the lack of a super uber in that rotation. When you have 3 superstars, and Draymond is a great basketball player, but when you have Clay, Steph, that rotation, you don't have those leaks because typically you can always have 2 of them on the court.
When you have Clay, Steph, and KD.
Yes.
Correct. And now that you're down to just 2 of those guys, and by the way, I wouldn't put it past Kerr because he's done this in the past, to have minutes out there where neither Steph and Clay are out there. But when only one of them is out there, the other guys are Quinn Cook, Alfonso McKinney, Kayvon Looney, Jordan Bell got run last night. You have to just say to those other guys, man, go make your next contract right now on us.
Even their other starters. I mean, Iguodala struggled. Draymond, Kevin Looney, Andrew Bogut. Like, none of those guys are going to really punish you offensively.
None of those guys can get 25 points.
Right. I mean, and if they do, God bless them. But you got to make them beat you versus Steph and Clay.
It's clearly it's clearly what Golden State thought about Portland. But go ahead.
Right. Well, remember 2 years ago when Golden State swept this Portland team. I know Portland's better now, but Kevin Durant only played 2 of those games, and they still swept them. I think even without Durant, Golden State is the far better team.
All right, we'll take a break. Stick around, Cris. Coming up, the Pelicans won the draft lottery, so where does that leave the New York Knicks? That's next on First Things First. Back here with Chris Broussard, we're going viral. Steph Curry poured in 36 points last night to take down his brother Seth's Blazers in Game 1. And when the Curry family had to decide which team to root for before the game, they left it up to a coin flip.
All right, the coin toss is going down. We got W is heads. You can't really see it, but I know it's heads. And P is tails. So they got to call it in the air. Who's calling it in the air?
Pay no attention to my...
Oh, he's been wearing that for the past 3 days.
Rock, paper, scissors.
No, Dad, you're early. It's rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right.
On shoot, you put yours out.
All right, wait a minute. Rock, paper, scissors. All right.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right, don't let it fall.
There you go.
Mom wears Portland.
Right.
Dad wears Golden State. Let's get it. Let's get it.
And the dogs stay neutral.
How awesome for those parents, man.
That was great. To see them last night with the jerseys, that was great.
It's amazing. I went to summer camp with Dell Curry. Then my brother, Coach Butch, Dell Curry, in Toronto. So I met Steph when he was a kid. So I've been able to see the family, man, come together and everything. They are NBA royalty.
They are. They're the first family of the NBA.
Dad's still working, calling games for the Hornets and everything. I love that. The
And
mom.
he was a very good player. People don't recognize.
You think they got that jump shot from? You think they got it from the mom?
Right. He was a 6 man of the year.
Can I ask you quickly before we move on? Deep down, they wouldn't admit it. Deep down,
Seth.
if they're rooting for
100% Seth.
You think?
Yeah, because
do I think?
Because Steph's already had everything.
I think you're rooting for Seth to have a great game, but Steph, this is like legendary type status, right? This is historical stuff. If Steph can win this,
so you don't think they're neutral? You think they're rooting on the other side?
Yeah.
Second
Actually, being a parent with twin girls, I think you can be neutral. I do think you can be neutral.
Man,
okay, well,
I would sit there and just be
I raised a couple
I'm just
athletes.
gonna enjoy it.
Okay?
Here we go.
And whoever's a better athlete, that's who we got to go with. Okay?
No, that's terrible.
No, it's not. It's real.
It's and my kids, only one of my kids is an athlete, but I certainly have a favorite kid. This neutral thing.
You got a favorite kid?
Of course.
Oh, come on,
my
man.
middle daughter's the best kid. The 5-year-old's cute, but she's a pain. The boy's a dummy.
I don't. Hey, listen.
8th grade graduation today. You've always been my favorite, and you know that.
I'm not.
I'm neutral.
What?
I'm
This
neutral.
is terrible.
She knows she's
I
my
love
favorite.
you.
She's
I
earned
love
it.
you both exactly the same.
She's earned
What are
it.
the words you're saying? Take
Jenna,
them back.
Now, you are my favorite.
Okay.
We
Well,
gonna
now
edit that.
you
This
can
dude.
focus on those words. Back to the draft lottery now. New Orleans,
His
which is
phone's
the
ringing.
6% shot to get the number 1 pick. Got it. And will almost certainly draft Zion Williamson. The Pelicans would love a lineup which includes both Zion and AD Anthony Davis. But according to reports, drafting Zion will not change Davis's trade demands. He still wants out. Broussard, would AD be making a mistake, forcing a trade with a chance to play alongside Zion?
Yeah, this hasn't changed his demands. And look, when you're a superstar of AD's stature, you don't change based on a rookie, a draft pick that we don't know what he's going to be, as much as we like him. This is about a big market. Let's face it. That's what this is about. This isn't the team. They lost Rajon Rondo. Outside of that, they essentially had the same team that swept the current Western Conference finalists, Portland Trailblazers.
Because
last year.
Boogie was on the team
And Boogie
last
was
year,
out, though.
but he was out.
Right, he was gone for the playoffs. So they swept them. So, and the organization wasn't that well run before. Now you got a solid GM in David Griffin, okay? This is about a big market. So if AD can get to the Lakers with LeBron or still the Knicks to play with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, that's a good look. Fine, that wouldn't be a mistake. Outside of those two, though, I do think AD should reconsider this isn't a bad situation. You got Zion, you got Drew Holiday, you got some other pieces around them, and if Julius Randle opts out, which he probably will, he's only going to make $9 million, had a very good year, and you waive and stretch a Solomon Hill, you could have $24 million to play with that helps you do a trade or get another player. Mike Conley's going to be on the market.
Yep, because they're going to draft John
Right.
Morant.
So if you can get a Mike Conley to play with a Drew Holiday, AD, and Zion, that's not a bad look if he can stomach staying in the small market of New Orleans.
I think it would be what you're describing would be a bad move for New Orleans. I think it would be making the mistake they made with Anthony Davis with Zion Williamson, which is not having the long view of it, which is not looking at we have a generational transcendent talent. Let's try to build this the right way. The ability the Pelicans have since the Lakers jumped all the way up to number 4, so get the 4th pick, get 1 or 2 previous number 2 overall picks in Ingram and or Ball, or Ball and or Ingram, depending on how you want to look at it, and have immediately a young core of blue chippers. Zion's a blue chipper, the number 4 pick be a blue chipper, and those 2 guys in their draft classes were blue chippers. And for Anthony Davis's side of things, he going into year 8. He's won 5 playoff games. Not series, games. Won 1 series ever, the one you're talking about. It is not about building something. It is about going somewhere where you can contend immediately. The team you're talking about, it'd be interesting, but Conley's clearly on the downside. Drew Holiday's not going to be better than he is right now, and the timelines to me don't match up. And
how old is Davis? 25?
Anthony Davis is 26 years old.
26.
Just finished year 7. He's 26 years old. So, no, Davis, I think, is. He's
still young enough where if those pieces could come together. And I'm with you. Again, if you can get to L.A. to play with LeBron, do it. If you can get to New York and play with KD, do it. But at some point, you mentioned 5 playoff wins. He's got to take some responsibility for that, right?
Of course.
If you're that good.
Yeah, I'm going to take some responsibility, but I'm going to get someone else to fight with me. So it doesn't make any sense for him to stay in New Orleans. I think that they should rebuild New Orleans around Zion. And right now, the NBA, it don't stand for the Young Boys Association, man. All right? Like, these is grown men in the playoff. All right? Now, you can do what you want 82 games. Yes, but in the playoffs, if Anthony Davis is going to change his legacy, it's going to happen in the playoffs. This year, how many games AD played, Nick?
He played 47?
Didn't he get 25 and 12?
Yeah.
And people don't even care.
Right.
All right? So he needs it. It's about a market, but it's also about in these big markets, you can win. KD is potentially going to be in New York. LeBron is already in Los Angeles. Why would I try to play in the Western Conference with a young superstar who, that was me 6-7 years ago? I was the number 1 pick. And what did they put around me? I feel more secure that David Griffin's going to put more around me because he looks at himself. If Zion is Anthony Davis in 7 years, would you be happy?
Of course.
Right.
Of course. No question about it.
But I get, again, I'm agreeing with you guys as far as L.A. and New York, but it's not a terrible situation. Denver is young. Denver was, the youngest team in the league? Look at how far they
Denver
went.
averaging 25 on the roster. They're the 4th youngest team in the NBA currently.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Youngest team in the playoffs.
Youngest team in the playoffs. So I'm just saying it can happen. They got 1 young guy in Zion. Drew Holiday's a veteran. Obviously AD. If you can get, some other type of trade. Like, I'm just saying the situation with a good GM is not horrible.
Better.
Right.
By lucking into, they thought they were going to have to trade Anthony Davis to get Zion. Now they have Zion without trading Anthony Davis. I understand that, of course, it got far better for New Orleans. But if you are Anthony Davis and you are saying, and for New Orleans' side of things, you're talking about a lot of it could be. David Griffin, I think, is too smart to roll the dice because Davis isn't going to sign an
and let
extension.
Davis stay, right.
And then what if it doesn't go well?
Yeah.
What if the people? I think Zion's going to be a 20-10 guy instantly. I've been wrong before. What if all the concerns about Zion, about his weight, about his height, about his lack of a jump shot, their rookie year, they all come true? And then Anthony Davis walks out the door for nothing,
Right.
and you have stunted the growth of your young, new generational talent.
A small little thing. If the skill set was different, if Zion was a guy who could shoot lights out and had the same rep, and he wasn't a post player, I think Anthony Davis should consider staying. But now you're talking about a guy who right now, I mean, his jump shot is not broken like Ben Simmons. It's fixable. And right now he's got enough confidence he's going to take those in NBA games. But because of the position and the style, he's got to be able to move on. And these opportunities to be able to play in New York or Los Angeles with those iconic players, that's once in a lifetime stuff.
Well, the key there is that AD doesn't want to stay in New Orleans. He's already made it very clear he wants to go to the Lakers. And the Lakers, he's talking about luck. They really lucked into getting that 4th spot. And suddenly they become far more valuable if they're going to trade with New Orleans. Do you think that happens?
For the Lakers, it depends on what New Orleans thinks of the 4th pick, Cam Reddish. And there are some scouts that have Cam Reddish as the better than R.J. Barrett, in the NBA.
Yeah, potential.
This might be a minority, but there are a lot of guys like Cam Reddish. If David Griffin and his staff like Cam Reddish as much as they like an R.J. Barrett, then that drastically improves the Lakers'
the kids
chances.
from Vanderbilt, Darius.
Yeah, the point guard. But yeah, if whoever the 4th pick is, if there's a lot of people think this is a top 3 draft and then a huge gap between the rest of the guys. If New Orleans doesn't believe that and they think they can get a blue chipper at 4, then that improves the Lakers' chances. But all things being equal, David Griffin's going to try to send Anthony Davis to the East. So that's going to work against the Lakers. Then you got Brandon Ingram with the blood clots, and I know it's not as bad in the arm.
Blood clots is a big stumbling block, but by any metric, the Lakers jumping from 11 to 4 was they were the 2nd biggest winner last night, behind New Orleans.
Yes.
The Lakers defying the odds, going all the way to 4, to where that pick now, it's better than anything Boston has to offer. It is only 1 spot behind what the Knicks have to offer, and the Lakers' young players are better than the Knicks' young players. The Lakers were huge winners last night. Rob Pelinka said, yeah, we'll look at the young players. We will also look to see what value that pick has on the market.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.